Hey, welcome in, everybody. We on Texas Football Channel. Tuesday live stream is live on a scorching hot Tuesday in May. Who would have thought triple digits if you're in Austin, Texas, or all over the Texas? You're dealing with 100 degrees, which is way out of the norm, but we'll take it. It makes you wonder what's going to be coming in the next couple of months. If it's May 13th and it's already 104 degrees. But welcome in. We've got a lot to dive into. It is the break for in May for the players. The coaches are out recruiting. We'll get you the very latest on that. We've got Big Texas Baseball Series coming up starting tomorrow night in Norman, Oklahoma, Red River Rivalry, and, of course, football. We'll talk former Longhorns now into the NFL at their rookie mini camps and hear from some of them. Also, the Longhorns who are getting ready. We've got scheduled news in the college football ranks. We've got post-spring rankings and tiers of the SEC and a lot of conversations being had. Jeff Howe, Rod Babers, how y'all doing?
Doing good, brother. Doing good.
I'm great. Right now, I'm filling out my ballot for the National College Baseball Writers Association All-American team. If anybody's got a problem with putting all these Longhorns on there, y'all shouldn't have put them on the ballot, Baseball Writers Association, because they're getting votes.
Yeah, well, let's start with that a little bit. We'll get into the football, but, who are you going with? I mean, obviously, Jared Spencer, the Longhorn lefty, was on his way to being on those All-American ballots before he got hurt. Dylan Volantis has been a freshman All-American, I think. Who are some other guys you've got on there?
Rod, I take my voting seriously. So I will remind the listening audience and the viewing audience, I do vote for both the Ray Guy Award and the Lou Groza Award during football season. I don't know how the hell that happened, but I do. I want to see. We're supposed to have a Zoom tomorrow morning with Schloss and the players, and I'm really looking forward to getting the vibe because I haven't heard Schloss sound all year like he sounded after that Sunday game. I mean, he said it was the most disappointing series of the season, most disappointing loss of the season. He wasn't happy. Will Gasparino got benched towards the end of that game. It's not probably for the second time in as many weekends that's happened. He singled out Adrian Rodriguez, saying, this guy's had a hamate bone injury. Every time he swings a bat, it feels like his hand's going to explode, but he's out there competing. So we need more guys like that. So Schloss just wasn't happy with this team, and he's been really pleased with what he's gotten so far. So definitely looking forward to feeling the vibe. And going to Norman, look, it's not an intimidating place to play, right? L. Milcher Park, they don't, it's a fraction of the interest that softball gets from that fan base, but it's a Skip Johnson team. They're going to pitch really well. They're going to compete on the mound. They're going to have speed on the base pass. They're going to try to discombobulate you with their running game. They'll small ball it a little bit. So it'll challenge them. And plus, you got an Oklahoma team. This will be their senior day weekend. They just got swept by Kentucky last weekend. So I don't know if OU's in the mix to host at this point, but they definitely want to win this series if they want to have a chance to host a regional.
No question about that, and I agree with you. There was a little players-only meeting. Rylan Galvan called. I think Schloss coming off the Arkansas sweep at Fayetteville thought there'd be a better response from his guys, especially the veterans and the seniors, and maybe they didn't see that as much as he had hoped. So maybe the players are trying to bring that together because they've got to play at a higher level. They're still, according to D1 Baseball, the number one seed in the whole tournament. They put out a bracket today. Texas, because of that resume, 40 wins, 20 wins in the SEC. Most quad one wins in the country. All the success of March and April has carried over, and they're still the number one team. Plus, the SEC is beaten up on itself. After Arkansas swept Texas, they dropped 2 out of 3 to LSU. LSU had just dropped 2 out of 3 to A&M. So it's a cannibalizing thing, and Texas is now dealing with that for the first time. But I agree with you about OU. I'll be interested to hear Schloss tomorrow, Jeff, and get your thoughts on this. Did they change up the pitching rotation, or is it Ruger Friday? Because, what you need to know about Oklahoma is their Friday night starter, which will be the Thursday starter this week, is a kid named Kyson Witherspoon. He and his brother Malachi transferred in from North Florida. And this guy is one of the best openers in college baseball. He's been lights out this year. He lost his last start at Kentucky, as you mentioned, but really pitched well. He's got a 2.45 ERA and a whip of .95 this year. Opponents batting just 190 against him. He'll be the Thursday starter. So, but their Friday and Saturday starter not nearly as strong. His brother has an ERA over 5, not as good on Saturday either. You wonder how this goes. Longhorns need a couple of wins to secure, the SEC championship. You wonder if they change it up. Plus, Jeff and Rod, 39 strikeouts this past weekend. That's too many. They had 37 against Arkansas the weekend before. They need to get back. I mean, you're not bringing Jared Spencer back to start the opener. but and the pitching needs to be better because we only got 8 outs on Friday and Sunday last week from your Friday starter and your Sunday starter. That's got to get better if they're going to go a long way come tournament time. But the bats have to get back to taking good at bats and not striking out so much.
Yeah, the big thing for me is I don't think he's going to change it up with the first two. I think he's got confidence in Ruben Riojas to get it figured out, and they've loved what they've gotten from Luke Harrison. I don't think Schloss is actually worried at all about the pitching. I think he trusts Max Weiner to do what he does. He's probably the best pitching coach in the country for a reason. Well, the thing I would look for is kind of twofold. One, with that Sunday starter, do they just go to Max Grubbs? I know they love Grubbs as to kind of maybe piggyback a starter or to be, as a long relief type guy, but do they just go with him as a starter? And whether it's Jason Flores or somebody else, do you develop that fourth starter, start getting into your mind kind of who that is and give them some long relief if there's an opportunity? Because to get through a regional, if you want to win the SEC tournament, which I don't think is a big goal of this team. The regular season championship, I think, means a lot more to them than the tournament. Not that they don't care about the tournament, but Schloss thinks more big picture than that. But if you're going to get out of a regional, I think you've got to go into a regional feeling like you've got 4 arms that can go out on the mound and get you a win. Mm-hmm. I don't think they've got that right now. That's the thing with the Jared Spencer injury. It doesn't cripple them. It's not going to prevent them from winning a national championship, but they've got no margin for error right now. Is the problem with that injury. So I think it's probably you're going to look at Grubbs moving in that rotation. And then, like I said, whether it's Flores, maybe it's Thomas Burns, who's pitched really well and was a starter at Arizona State. So they've got some options on what to do for the 3 and 4 spots. Plus, you've seen it long enough, Rod. You've even seen it when it gets to Omaha. If you get to Omaha, especially if you get in that losers bracket, you got to have 4, maybe 5 guys that you really trust when you get into an elimination situation to put on the mound. The goal for this team, at this point, until proven otherwise, can you get the game to the last 6 outs when you can get Dylan Volantis on the mound? That, to me, should be the focus every time out.
Yep. Well, and I'd also say this to the hitting. Schloss, whether he's been at TCU, A&M, or Texas this year, his teams lead the nation in pitches faced per at bat. Mm-hmm. They're a patient hitting team. They want to work counts. But it feels like against Arkansas and Arkansas and Florida the last 2 weekends, they've kind of not been aggressive enough early in counts and fallen behind. And they've been 0-2, 1-2 in counts, and that lets the pitcher get control of the at-bat. I wonder if they come out a little more aggressive with Troy Tulowitzki, trying to attack some early fastballs against Oklahoma, because Skip Johnson's team is going to be able to pitch. Unlike Florida and some of these other teams, Oklahoma only has 1 player with double figures home runs. They don't slug. They play the Augie Greedo, Skip Johnson small ball. So you're going to have to manufacture runs. They're going to be aggressive on the base pass. So it should be a fun series Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And as Jeff said, there'll be an availability tomorrow with Schloss on a Wednesday morning to get ahead of this thing, see what that pitching rotation looks like. I'm sure there's been some hard conversations about the pitching, the rotation, and getting these guys back on track, because it's not time to panic, Rod Babers. I mean, you're number 1 in the country. You're 3 in the D1 poll, but you're still number 1 in the overall tournament. You win a couple games in Norman, you're going to be the number 1 seed in the SEC tournament, which, as Jeff said, that's a place where you can get some arms, some work come tournament time, and you're going to be a 1 seed or 2 seed come big tournament time, be hosting a 4-team regional here in Austin.
Yeah, but the expectations for this team, because they've been so good, is championship level expectations. And the concern, I've talked to enough Texas baseball fans to know, if there is concern, it is that they peaked. Did they peak too soon?
Yeah.
And not that they won't be able to compete in the postseason and they won't show up. There's a belief, but like I said, because the expectations are championship level, you want to peak at the right time. And that's every sport, by the way. You want to be peaking at the right time. And I think the concern is, man, did they peak? Did we see the best of the team yet, or is the best yet to come? I don't think we know the answer to that question yet. And that may be going back to one kind of the Jeff's original point was that they may be looking to adjust some things potentially to try to make sure they still can peak at the right time.
Yeah, Brian Berg in the chat hit the nail on the head when you're talking about college baseball. You want to get a top 8 seed, because the top 8 guarantees you, as long as you keep winning, you'll be at home until you get to Omaha. Part of me thinks, and maybe this is wishful thinking on my part, but I believe in Jim Schlossnagle. I believe in this team. Everybody in the SEC has had that, 10-day to 2-week stretch this year where they haven't played well at all. I mean, we're talking about Florida's been one of the hottest teams in the country. I think they started out with 1-8, 1-11.
1-11.
Play. Yeah. Tennessee's had it where they've struggled of late. We've seen Arkansas have it where they've struggled. So LSU a couple weeks ago got run ruled in a midweek game by Southeast Louisiana. So baseball's a funny game, yes, but everybody's going to have that stretch where you don't play well. I think maybe this is the injuries catching up to Texas and then maybe just needing a reset. I think not playing a midweek game this week is huge from that standpoint. Sometimes you just need to, and I was around Augie a little bit, and he used to say this sometimes. Sometimes at some point in the season, guys need to get away from baseball. Don't come to the facility. Just go focus on finals, whatever. Just get away and then come back when you're mentally recharged. So hopefully we see a different team in Norway. Yeah. To what Brian Berg mentioned and what you were talking about a minute ago, the good news is they got such a big cushion with that hot start and the 19-2 start in conference play that even if they lost out, got swept and were 2 barbecued in the SEC tournament, I think they're still a top 8. Now that's not what Schloss or anybody wants, but the resume is what the resume is, and it's a top 8 resume, whether you're talking about now or whenever the selection committee sits down to do the bracket.
100%. I think getting to that 40th win with the Saturday win over Florida and the 20 conference wins, first team to 20 in the SEC, because you said, Jeff, every team in the SEC's had their stretch. Longhorns are having theirs here in early May, but at the same time, there's going to be six of the 8 top 8 national seeds are going to be SEC teams when we get around to it. Yeah. So it's a meat grinder of a concert. Heck, in softball, 7 of the 8 were SEC teams, just like 14 basketball teams made the NCAA tournament. And the women's side was equal to that. I mean, it's crazy what goes on in this Southeastern Conference thing. We're going to talk some football on that note coming up here in a moment on the On Texas Football Tuesday live stream. Aaron Hogan, Rod Babers, Jeff Howe, taking your super chats, taking your chats and conversations about the Texas Longhorns. So still a lot of baseball to be played. And as you guys said, peaking. Look, Ohio State, they peaked at the right time in football, right? I mean, they found that mojo and lost to Michigan. It kind of, maybe these late series losses can jolt Texas. The players only meeting and certainly being embarrassed by Michigan on their home field jump-started the Ohio State Buckeyes. They make the 12-team playoff and roll to a national championship. I kind of feel like that's how this college baseball thing's going to be, in that there's probably 8-10 teams that can win the national title, and it's going to be who gets really hot here in the next month to 6 weeks to really play their best baseball at this point, and that could be Texas.
Yep. Do we expect the Texas offense to get
Max Ballou's coming back, Rod. Max Ballou will be back here.
Get a boost.
They're going to be careful with him, but to get that left-handed bat, reigning Big 12 Player of the Year back in that lineup, as Jeff mentioned, Adrian Rodriguez battling that hammock bone. They really need to get Will Gasparino back going, and that's why the fact that he was benched was disappointing. He carried that team for a couple of weeks, 3-week stretch or a month stretch, where he was the hottest hitter in college baseball. And it felt like there was a different guy every weekend. Kimball Schuessler had his weekend. Gasparino had his weekend. Jalen Flores is always there. And it just feels like the last couple of weekends they've gone into a bit of a collective team slump. And so they got to get out of that. And maybe Norman is a place to do that because, as Jeff mentioned, it's not the most hostile environment. A lot of these Texas players have played in that ballpark as members of the Big 12. That Arkansas thing was a buzzsaw. I don't think they'll be dealing with that in Norman like they saw in Fayetteville. And that'll start tomorrow night.
The other thing, that I will mention, too, that's worth mentioning, for the last 2 weeks, this team's been battling the flu too. They've had the flu through the team, so hopefully they're back. They're at the back end of that, if not through it. And you mentioned Jalen Flores; he's hitting below 200 in conference, so he's a better ball player than what the numbers show right now.
100%. And he's had some clutch hits, big hits, loves it when the bases are loaded and they need a big one. Had that big home run on Saturday, part of that back-to-back. But, yes, they've got to get that batting average up. And, look, collectively, the team's batting about 270. So, that's something that's going to have to improve, moving forward. And getting Max Ballou back might just be, a good thing. And Jonah Williams getting more and more at-bats. His speed can be a factor, manufacturing some runs because he is such a, elite runner and athlete. Getting him on base can be a good thing too. So a lot of baseball to go. Oklahoma this weekend, then it's the SEC tournament, then it is the NCAA tournament. And I think no matter what happens from here, I think they've locked up a top 8 national seed, but that would just be my guess on that based on the resume that they have right now. And just everybody else has some issues too. There is not a perfect team out there without a doubt. All right, guys. Rod, tell them about our friends. always bring it to you on a Tuesday night to get us into this thing, and then we're going to talk some football.
Yep, Andy Ludicky. We appreciate
Andy Ludicky.
him and his team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like me that has their hands in different businesses. Well, Andy and his team can help you diversify by finding you different businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. If you've been stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over your money you make or your schedule in general, Andy and his team will take you through a very detailed process that will fit your skill sets and find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. They understand franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, you reach out to Andy today at 404-973-9901, or you can reach out to him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. That's andy@myperfectfranchise.net. And we appreciate Andy Ludicky and his team for sponsoring our team here at On Texas Football.
All right, guys, let's switch gears to some football, and we'll take your baseball chats if you've got them, questions, of course, and Longhorns with Oklahoma starting tomorrow night in Norman. But, guys, somebody sent me this column, this story that I think launches a cool, interesting SEC football conversation, and it's the SEC coming out of the spring through the portal, looking forward to summer and then the fall camp, and kind of power rankings, but tiered into 5 tiers, starting at the bottom with they title it There's Always Next Year. So Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky, those 3 happen to be on the Longhorns schedule this year. Vanderbilt's here, Mississippi State and Kentucky are road games. Any issue with that, guys, having those 3 of the 16 teams at the bottom? If you look at Kentucky, the guys off to the NFL, the guys that have transferred, Kentucky may be a pretty rough football team this year. Longhorns play in Lexington, they play in Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt comes here with another year for Diego Pavia. Any issue with those 3 being considered the bottom 3 teams in the conference?
I think, I don't know, Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt, they probably are in the bottom of the SEC, but I think they're a tougher out maybe than Kentucky will be. And Kentucky, losing Maxwell Hairston, the corner, Deion Walker. I mean, that was 2 of the better defensive players in the conference. They lost both of those guys. They're going to be changing quarterbacks too. So not really sure how competitive Kentucky's going to be. So I kind of agree with they're going to be at the bottom. Mississippi State as well. Mississippi State's got a lot of just issues overall, macro and micro. They're dealing with trying to compete in the SEC. But I don't know, Vanderbilt, I don't know. Like I said, they still may be at the bottom, but I don't think that's an easy out. And I guess the belief would be that based on the offseason, because I don't know how many losses they had. I think it's more based on people believe that was an outlier, that was an aberration, right? They just had a fluke season. And I don't know, Diego Pavia, man, he's got that dog in him. He's a likes to fight guy. As long as you got a quarterback, you always got a shot. They have a very unique style of offense as well. Their running game is probably as unique, and it's probably as non-traditional, obtuse as any running game in the SEC with a lot of the things that they do with Diego Pavia and design running game. So that's the only one I would question is Vandy. But I agree with you for the most part. Mississippi State and Kentucky should be easy outs for Texas. For the most part.
And that you're long after going to Nashville last year, Jeff, Longhorns are glad that game's here. And then it is kind of like playing a military academy, the way they run the football, right? You just don't see it that often. You get a week to prep for it, and you got to figure it out. And as Alabama found out last year, if they get it going, you just can't get them off the field.
Yeah. Here's the thing with Vanderbilt. They're not going to sneak up on anybody this year. Everybody's going to know what Diego Pavia brings to the table. But at the same time, you're still dealing – and keep in mind, I keep saying this, college football is going to be a younger game this year because all the guys that had COVID eligibility, all those guys have cycled out. You don't have any more, 6th-year seniors. It's going to be a younger game. Do the younger guys on your roster, do they just see the Vanderbilt logo on the schedule and like, we got it? Because if you do, you're going to be in for a really tough Saturday. Now, like I said, you hit the nail on the head, Texas playing Vanderbilt at home instead of on the road is going to be a different dynamic. I'll tell you, not to get too deep into the weeds with Vanderbilt, but I'll tell you, they've got their 2nd game of the year, 3rd game of the year. They got 2 really intriguing games. They start the year with Charleston Southern. Then they got a non-conference game at Virginia Tech. And then the following week, their SEC opener at South Carolina. If they can split those, they could be in pretty decent shape to get back to a bowl game.
Good stuff. Yeah. And that game with Vanderbilt here. I know a lot of the audience out there made it to Nashville last year for that ball game. The Longhorns won it, and we're happy to get out there with the W and had a good time on Broadway afterwards. All right. Also from this power ranking SEC post spring, they have a tier 4 upset curious. These are teams to maybe keep an eye on. Arkansas, Missouri, and Tennessee are the 3 choices there. So, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee. Taylon Green is back for Arkansas. Missouri's breaking in a new quarterback and lost, Luther Burden and a bunch of guys to the NFL. And then Tennessee, of course, had the Nico Iamaleava situation. Joey Aguilar is in from UCLA to be their quarterback, but you lose a quarterback of that caliber, you're going to slide. Any disagreement, guys, with those 3 at tier 4, Arkansas, Missouri, and Tennessee? Only one of those on the Texas schedule this year. That will be Arkansas here.
I may switch Vanderbilt and Arkansas.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, because Taylon Green's back, but they lost to Quentin Jackson, and Sam Pittman is forever on the hot seat. You just wonder if they hit a skid where they lose a couple games. Does the locker room just start to feel it? And I called it last year. I said Texas was going to go to Fayetteville with Bobby Petrino as the interim coach. Well, maybe Arkansas comes to Austin under interim head coach Bobby Petrino. I don't know, but I don't know. Rod, say Sam Pittman. I got this vibe from. I've always had this vibe about Sam Pittman. I got this at SEC Media Days last year. Sam Pittman seems like the kind of guy that would mow your front yard for you while you're on vacation. Like you just want to sit out in the driveway and have a beer with him. I don't know if I want him running my football program, but he seems like a hell of a guy.
I think that's what's kept him on. Is that I think a lot of people have that same type of feeling of mentality with him, and they always get a big upset to this point. That's what the tier they're in, right? Upset special. Arkansas is good for 1. Now they may not win enough games to make a bowl game, but they good for that 1 every year. Taylon Green will be in the system now, for the second year in the system. So hopefully he makes a leap for Arkansas. But that's kind of why your take that you should switch Vanderbilt and Arkansas. I don't disagree with it because when you think about it, Diego Pavia is going to be in that system now. This will be his 4th year in that system, I believe.
Yeah, brought it with you.
The same system they ran in New Mexico State or whatever. You got a quarterback in a system for that long? That's just going to be it's going to be everything's second nature. Everything is second nature, man. Everything is muscle memory. So will Taylon Green take I think it's all about kind of the quarterback for this group, because you said there'll be new quarterbacks for Tennessee and Missouri. Maybe that's why Arkansas has a bit of an advantage with this group. But I'm with Texas. For Texas, I don't think this is a tough game, and I don't think Taylon Green, if he doesn't make that leap, I don't think he'll present that many problems for Texas. I think Diego Pavia actually will present more problems maybe than a Taylon Green will against Texas. And we're just talking about that comparison.
All right. Tier 3, surprise title contenders. And there are 5 of them. And I want your guys' thoughts on which one how you would rank these. Surprise title contenders, according to this power ranking. Auburn now with Jackson Arnold, Oklahoma with John Mateer and some portal additions, Texas A&M. In year 2 for Mike Elko, South Carolina with Lenora Sellers and company, and Ole Miss replacing Jackson Dart, but still having Lane Kiffin. Put those in order for me, guys. Auburn, Oklahoma, A&M, South Carolina, and Ole Miss. We know that OU and A&M are on the schedule for Texas this year in that surprise title contender category.
My thing is
South Carolina?
Which of those head coaches do you trust? I don't know if I trust any of them.
South Carolina is so interesting because Lenora Sellers, right? And
he's so good.
Yes, his upside is tremendous. He's just got some freaky skills. He's just so if he ends up being anything like if he builds on how they ended the season last season, I do think they could be special. Look at Dylan Stewart on the defensive side. Yeah, I think South Carolina might be the one to separate there. Beamer. I don't know about Shane Beamer. I haven't studied Shane Beamer enough to know what kind of coach he is. And maybe now this offseason, I'll do something. Texas hadn't played him, so I really haven't done any kind of deep dives on him. Maybe as a coach, is he ready to, give them a schematic, strategic, advantage, cultural advantage? Like that, I don't necessarily know. I've watched Sellers, and Sellers, I think he's the real deal, man. I think he's scary. That's a scary quarterback to face. It really is.
They were one of the hottest teams in the country coming down the stretch last year. They lost a couple games early, and Sellers had an ankle injury early, and he got healthy, and they were a tough out for everybody. There were a lot of people thought maybe they could have made the playoff. They were playing so well at the end of the season, and they've got some big games. You mentioned that Vanderbilt game early. They got Clemson obviously late, and that Palmetto State battle. That'll be a good one. But what about your thoughts as we come out of the spring, guys, about the two that are on the Longhorn schedule? Oklahoma will be in Dallas. The A&M game will be here, and those are bottom teams. So we're getting two more teams that are not favored to be much this year, middle of the pack to below on the Longhorn schedule. But Mike Elko, year 2, and they're talking highly of this John Mateer up there in Norman, Oklahoma, the Washington State transfer, with his offensive coordinator Ben Arbuckle coming with him. Made some changes on the defensive side, and Brett Venables, firmly on the hot seat. What about Oklahoma and A&M year 2 for Elko?
I mean, I'm expecting OU from a personnel standpoint, even though you lose Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman. I think with Venables and, they've probably got maybe the best interior defensive line in the SEC, maybe the best defensive line in the SEC that we don't talk about. This hasn't been talked about. I don't know. We still got some run up to media days, but I think Oklahoma's really good on the defensive front. With the offense, I'll believe it when I see it, because I think they've still got massive problems on the offensive line. They didn't have healthy receivers most of the year. Getting Deion Burks back is going to help if he's healthy. But I don't know what they're going to do. I don't even know who's carrying the ball for him at this point. Rod,
it'll be the Cal transfer. It'll be the Cal transfer. Jay Knott.
Jay Knott. Yeah, okay. Jay Knott. He's legit.
Yeah, it feels like. I'm only saying this. I'm not saying this because I'm hating on OU. I'm saying it because as covering Texas and being a Texas fan, I've seen this movie before. This is a rerun for me. You're gonna put all your eggs in this big, massive offseason change, neglecting the fact that your roster still has massive holes. Number one, and number two, that really hard schedule you had last year, you're gonna play the same schedule again this year.
Yeah,
and exactly. Plus you got Michigan game too. So there's no you don't face a Tulane or whoever that second game. You got to face Michigan. So yeah, I don't know, man. OU can be better. We can see a better product on the field, and maybe they're a 7-win team.
Yeah, agreed. Well, their offense was so dreadful last year. I mean, it was remedial what they were doing offensively. And now Arbuckle in, John Mateer, Jay Knott. They did bring in the Stanford offensive lineman, but I agree with you, Jeff. They still have holes. So who's going to catch it and block? Defense should be good because Brett Venables usually has good defense. As for A&M, guys, I mean, obviously we'll do more deep dive as we get into SEC Media Days and beyond. But Mike Elko, he's not dynamic, but he is a real steady coach. I think he's a day-to-day kind of guy, lay the bricks kind of deal. And they do lose those 3 defensive linemen to the NFL in Shamar Turner and Shamar Stewart and Nick Skirton. Those guys are all off to the National Football League now, so they got to rebuild that line. But what do we think? Mike Elko, year 2, any thoughts?
It's about Marcel Reed, right? Are they invested in Marcel Reed, building an offense around Marcel Reed? Colin Klein is the OC. Is that going to be, unanimity between the scheme and his skill set? Because I think he's limited as a passer, as a pocket passer. I think he can get better, and I'm expecting him to get better. But if you don't, in my opinion, kind of cater that system to his skill set, and then I think that offense is going to struggle. And so defensively, they're going to, I think, regress a little, because you can't help but regress when you lose 3 NFL defensive linemen. So I think they'll regress a little bit there. But I think the real story is Colin Klein and Marcel Reed, and the evolution of that offense. Do they take the next step? And getting back to, and the reason I think it's so important, right? We're talking about quarterbacks who are veteran quarterbacks in the same system. That is so important, guys. That gives you a huge advantage. Texas has had a huge advantage with that, with Quinn Ewers, right? Even with Arch Manning coming in, at least he's been in the system, right? He's not new to the system. So at least he's been as an understudy, if you will, but he's still been in that system. That the quarterback, John Mateer, we're just talking about Oklahoma. He's going to come to Texas. I believe that's going to be his 3rd year in that Ben Arbuckle system, since Ben Arbuckle is coming with him. And Brett Venables is doing that. That's intentional, right? He did that with Dylan Gabriel. And I think he's once again copying that same formula, I think it actually could have some success. Just the reason, an example of it. I was reading just recently about Kyle Shanahan when Kyle Shanahan first got to the 49ers, right, as their offensive coordinator. And he was talking to Joe Montana. And Joe Montana was basically telling him about, the system they run, the West Coast system they were running. And Joe Montana on some plays, Mike Shanahan was telling him, like, listen, I think you're basically skipping through progressions. You're not even looking at 1 and 2 in some of these plays based on the film. I'm looking at you're just going straight to 3 and 4. And then Joe Montana laughed and was like, I didn't think anybody would catch that. And he said, he said it's important because there are some plays I already know. Yeah, there's a 4 read progression, but I already know 1 and 2 ain't gonna be open. I did my research on that linebacker, did my research on this, and I know based on the system that guy ain't gonna be open. I might as well go straight to 3. I gotta look off that safety down, but I'm gonna go straight to 3. And he's gonna be open because I've been in the system with that guy for so long. I know when you're a veteran quarterback in the system, those are the type of the little cheat codes that you have, right? Those are the loopholes you learn within an offense. Guys who are new to the system don't know those loopholes. And that's why I think that's important to understand. You're going to be advanced in terms of the subtle nuances of the game, and you're going to be advanced as an offense overall in your efficiency and efficacy because of veteran QBs, because they know that type of stuff in that system because they've been in it for so long. Oklahoma's going to have that advantage. Can Marcel Reed start to gain that type of advantage in the system that he's a veteran? Yeah. Diego Pavia knows. Everybody's like, oh, man, coach called that play. Psh, I already know I'm going to scramble on this one. All right, let's go. And you know what I mean? Like, players know these types of things. Yeah. Right? Coach calling that blitz. All right, that cornerback blitz never works. All right, don't worry. We'll be ready because the quarterback's probably going to get that out anyway. It's going to be a quick throw, though, but we know. Right? You learn how to work within the parameters of the system. You can't cheat the system. You can't operate outside the rules of it. Some guys are freaks and they can. But for the most part, you got to learn how to operate within the system. And that's why veteran quarterbacks give you such an advantage. And that's why I'll bet on the veteran quarterback in that, talking about that group there. I usually would bet on the veteran quarterback over the other guy. So I know there's a lot of hype on Oklahoma and John Mateer, but that's why that's the hype. And Venable's going to have the defense ready. He ain't gonna put out no trash defense. He just ain't gonna do that.
Yeah, they're gonna play with their hair on fire.
Rod, I'll back you up. I'll back you up on that, Rod. I mean, go back and look the last year at Quinn. How checking the protection on 4th and 13.
Yeah,
how was a Quinn check to a run, changing the protect, whatever it was. How many times did he get this offense out of a bad play or play he didn't think would work and got him into a good play?
Yep. Vanderbilt. Remember the fade, the slot fade? Yeah. Was that DeAndre Moore? Right? He said he checked to that one while he was motioning across. He was like, "Hey, bro, fluffer." You know what I mean? Like only veteran QBs will do that, man. Young QBs don't do that as much. So that's why I said usually I'm a bet on the veteran QB.
Yeah, well, and that's why nationally you see Clemson and Cade Klubnik and Drew Aller and Penn State and Garrett Nussmeier and LSU as teams that are up there because they have those quarterbacks that have been in a system for multiple years now. Dylan Gabriel last year is a good example. Will Howard was in a new system at Ohio State, but he was a veteran quarterback, leading Ohio State to a national title. Riley Leonard, kind of the same kind of thing at Notre Dame. Quinn Ewers at Texas as part of that Final Four. All right, guys, next tier, and those were your 5 tier. And again, if you're just jumping in, we're talking about post-spring power rankings and tiers. The bottom 3, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, upset curious but not real contenders would be Arkansas, Missouri, and Tennessee with their quarterback issues. Surprise title contenders, if things break right, would be Ole Miss, South Carolina, A&M, Oklahoma, and Auburn. And now we get to tier 2, likely college football playoff participants. LSU and Florida. Anybody? I'll jump on board with LSU because if they don't make it, Brian Kelly's going to be in trouble. Same for Billy Napier. But do we see Florida as a title contender this year? The 12-team playoff.
Lagway. It's all about Lagway stays healthy. That team plays different. Y'all watched them last year.
He's good.
They play different. They're a different team when DJ Lagway's out there. And that is, to me, I think one of those universal truths about football, right? At every level. If there's a dude at that position, everybody's play is lifted to another level. Everybody plays inspired when they believe they got a chance to win. And when you got a dude at quarterback, you got a chance to win. So I think that's why they play. Now, I don't know if DJ Lagway is going to be, if he's going to take a real leap to be a little bit more efficient. But in terms of the deep passing, like his X-Man abilities, what I look at when I look at quarterbacks, what do they do better, if not better, or just as good as everybody else? And for him, it's his deep vertical shots downfield. So can they take advantage of that in that offense? Do they have the weapons around him to do that? I think he's going to be, as long as he stays healthy, I think he's going to be spectacular. I do. I think DJ Lagway, he's got that kind of upside. And even if he doesn't have a sophisticated passing game, or he's not a sophisticated passer, he's such a freakish athlete that he's like Anthony Richardson. He's going to have time to just pull it and just go out there and make a guy miss in the open space.
Jeff, your thoughts on Lagway? Did you see him in the state of Texas? I mean, he was a number one recruit in the nation out of Willis, Texas. How would you comp him to say a Jalen Milroe who just got drafted into the NFL by the Seahawks? Is he? I think he's better than that.
I think he's a better passer than Milroe. I think he's a little more fluid in his movements than Jalen Milroe. They can be a 9-10 win team if he's healthy. Mm-hmm. The one thing I didn't worry about with Florida last year was their offensive line. I thought their offensive line was pretty good. I thought their running backs were pretty good.
They're big, man, big and good athletes. I mean, they're an SEC looking team.
But man, defensively, that wasn't a vintage like Bob Stoops Florida defense from back in the day, or some of those Urban Meyer defenses. That Florida defense was just flat out bad at times. So they got to pick it up there. I think a lot of that was personnel. You just look around, like looking at a secondary. I'm like, I said this, watching Florida last year was like watching Texas during the Charlie Strong and the Tom Herman days, where you can look and see a few NFL guys here and there. You're like, man, they got good pieces. Like, what is the problem? Like, how are they that bad? But then you start looking at like the premium positions. Once Lagway went down, they didn't have anything at quarterback. They didn't have anything that really scared you at wide receiver. That was not a Florida secondary that I've grown accustomed to seeing. So yeah, I think a lot of their issues are personnel, but it's all going to hinge on Lagway's health. I think Lagway's a better prospect, a better passer. I think he can facilitate offense better than Jalen Milroe. LSU is the one for me. I mean, I've got a lot of respect for Garrett Nussmeier. Going back to the A&M game was one of the games I watched.
He was so good
last year, and they lost that game, but man, he got the hell beat out of him. Nussmeier did, and he just kept coming back and coming back and coming back and flinging the ball, like dropping back, knowing every time he's probably going to get hit in the mouth. It just kept rifling the ball down the field. So I got a lot of respect for Garrett Nussmeier. With Brian Kelly, though, I mean, it was only going to go one of two ways with Brian Kelly at LSU, right? Either they were going to like run off this great run of like national championship caliber seasons, or he's probably going to be fired in 3 years. And I think we'll probably get our answer to which one.
Yeah, this is the year. This will be year 4 for him. But they didn't lose a player through the portal, and they spent a lot. And they kind of, they lost Bo Davis to the Saints, to a defensive line coach, but they've added, including Sidir Mitchell and about 4 or 5 other defensive linemen. They're trying to stock up on defense with their Bo Baker, their new defensive coordinator from Missouri that they hired 2 years ago, or 2 off seasons ago now. So LSU is interesting. And Nussmeier is a really good player, Rod. I mean, talk about veteran quarterbacks. His dad is Doug Nussmeier, who's now the offensive coordinator of the Saints. Followed Kellen Moore from the Philadelphia, the Eagles, where he helped develop Jalen Hurts. So Nussmeier's got a great pedigree, and if they protect him, play better defense, and can find some kind of running game. That's what I felt bad about Nussmeier last year. They just couldn't run the ball, which is not an LSU type of thing. You got to be able to run the football and not put it all on your quarterback.
Yeah, no, I believe last time I looked at the Heisman odds, it was Arch and Nussmeier who had the best Heisman odds, which is crazy because Nussmeier's coming off a year as a full-time starter and Arch started like 2 games. But anyway, I digress. Even the conspiracy theories are saying that after Derek Carr, retired out of nowhere, that the Saints are tanking for Arch or Nussmeier because Nussmeier's dad is there as the OC, and he could end up being the top quarterback taken. So there's no doubt. I mean, even in NFL circles, and whether you're talking about preseason prognostications, Garrett Nussmeier is on a lot of people's boards as the top quarterback, potentially if Arch doesn't come out and potentially be the top quarterback taken, which I'm not saying he is, and I don't think he is, but a lot of mock drafts you'll see they got Arch coming there just as clickbait. They got him coming out in 2026. So I agree. I think Garrett Nussmeier if LSU is going to compete for the SEC championship, he's got to be in the Heisman conversation.
Yeah, he does.
Period.
Same with Cade Klubnik at Clemson, and those are Drew Aller at Penn State. Those three guys are the veteran QBs. And Brian Kelly, this might be the best quarterback. Well, Jaden Daniels, best quarterback he's had.
Had a good one.
But he didn't have a defense that year, and maybe the combo we'll see with Brian Kelly. This is kind of his year. Brett Venables, Sam Pittman, Billy Napier at Florida. These guys are all hot seat candidates without a doubt as they come into this season. So those are the second tier level. We'll get to tier one, and you can know because we haven't mentioned the Longhorns. They are in tier one. Let's go. So I'm thinking of dudes at quarterback that elevate everybody. Let's hear from our friends at Advanced Pain Care. A couple of dudes that elevated their entire team, telling you about the great group. If you have pain and you're putting it off and procrastinating, don't do it. Get to Advanced Pain Care. Here they are.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. And Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
All right, those are two dudes that could elevate. They could elevate. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
And we'll see. Let's get to tier one. Wrap this thing up, though. We'll talk some rookie mini camps in the NFL. But tier one, there are 3 national title and SEC champion contenders according to this power ranking from On3 Sports. It's Texas, Georgia, and Alabama. Steve Sarkisian says here, Texas finally fielding a team that's truly Steve Sarkisian's. Michael Taft's the only player who predates his 5th-year head coach. No one associated with the former walk-on, other from the Tom Herman era. It says Arch Manning will be one of the best quarterbacks in the country, clear favorite with the offensive line, returns. Georgia with Gunnar Stockton, and then Kalen DeBoer into his 2nd season. I don't think anybody doubts Kalen DeBoer's ability to coach football. Now he's got the big shoes there, year 2 at Alabama. You agree with that? Georgia, Texas, Alabama as the big dog trio in the SEC.
Oh yeah, Texas definitely is in there. Georgia's in there. But I'm worried about Georgia's skill position guys. They just don't have, in my opinion, the elite, explosive skill position guys on offense anymore, right? And I think they had a bunch of those guys in the backfield during their championship dynastic run. The backfield, tight end position, of course, guys like Brock Bowers and at wide receiver. And I don't see it as much for Georgia. Gunnar Stockton's a new quarterback. He can run a little bit. So, I think they'll utilize that. Texas even saw that in the SEC title game. But he, to me, is not necessarily right now, a high-level passer. So I think you need weapons, right, to be able to create separation outside to create bigger passing windows for young quarterbacks like that. I don't know if they had them. Remember last year, they were one of the top teams or one of the leaders in college football in drops. And a lot of their drops were because Carson Beck was putting the ball, and he was also awful at times, putting the ball through small window throws, like tiny window throws where NFL quarterbacks are trying to put the ball right on the money in a small window, and he wasn't good enough, and the right receivers weren't good enough in those contested catch situations. So they need some. I think that's what Georgia needs. Georgia has a line of scrimmage, man. Kirby been stockpiling lines of scrimmage for 7, 8 years. They stacked them lines of scrimmage. Where I think they're hurting a little bit is on the skill position. In the skill position, especially on offense, skill position wise, I think that's what I wonder about them. But with Alabama, I think Alabama going to surprise people. I think Kalen DeBoer is a hell of a coach. Now, who's the quarterback going to be? Ty Simpson? Who's the quarterback?
Yeah, Ty Simpson.
Most
likely.
I don't know anything about Ty Simpson. I trust Kalen DeBoer and his offensive acumen, right? And he's been fantastic. I know he disappointed folks last year. I get that. But that's just because you're following the GOAT, Nick Saban. I think he's a hell of a coach. From what I hear, he was trying to make friends last year. He didn't want basically to upset any of the players, the established guys there, because he was replacing the legend Nick Saban. I think now he's going to come in and run the program truly his way instead of trying to cushion the transition for a lot of guys. And he's been a hell of a coach everywhere he's gone. So I'll trust the offense is going to be great. They got skill position guys, one of the best receivers in the country, and Ryan Williams. So I think Alabama's going to be legit. I think Alabama's going to be the real deal. Georgia, I think taking a step back unless they find something explosive on offense. And right now, I don't see it. And they got a culture decay happening there with this Fast and the Furious culture, whatever the hell's going on, where guys keep getting arrested for, driving reckless and all this kind of stuff. I don't know what's going on. I think Georgia's totally at the end of their dynasty. And at the end of dynasties, where you're talking about the Warriors in the NBA, or whether you're talking about the Chiefs in the NFL, you start to see the decay, right? It starts to become obvious, like, man, they got a big hole in that team. They got, oh man, that was a bad, game for them. Or you can tell that there are systemic issues that arise. I'm starting to see that with Georgia. So not that Georgia's not going to be competitive. They still probably win 10 games. But I do think there will be regression. They're not going to dominate like they have been because I just don't think they have the athletes on offense right now.
My thing with Georgia is, they brought in Zachariah Branch from USC, but that's only one guy. It's not like they don't have skill positions like they've had in the past. And Rod, you said Arian Smith went third, fourth round in the draft. Every time I watched Georgia last year, I saw Arian Smith dropping like a would-be. Like whatever his numbers were last year, it could have been double that if he just held on to the football. And part of me wonders too with Gunnar Stockton, if Gunnar Stockton just does a better job protecting the football, where Carson Beck was a turnover machine.
That's true.
Some games. So part of me wonders, is Kirby and Mike Bobo, do they just say, hey, let's just load up Nate Frazier and run behind this offensive line and just get back to the football? They didn't run it very consistently last year. Now, Trevor Etienne being hurt, in and out, it just so happened the 2 games he was healthiest were probably the 2 games against Texas, and he was really good. But maybe Georgia gets back to running the football. I'm with you on Alabama. I don't care if it's Ty Simpson or who's at quarterback. If you're telling me you're starting your skill position totem pole with Ryan Williams, number 1, I don't care who you got at quarterback. Give me the guy, and I'll figure out. I don't know that they've got a home run hitter at running back. Jam Miller's been there for forever, it seems like. So they've got talent. But I'm with you. I also think too, with Alabama offensively, Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer being back together, because Grubb was with the Seahawks, got fired. Now he's back at Bama. I think that's probably that may work a little bit better. Plus, like you said, just that year-over-year turnover in terms of culture. I think Bama's going to put a better, maybe more consistent product on the field this year.
Yeah. And their depth chart is talented. I agree with you guys about Georgia. When they were winning national titles, they had those lines of scrimmage, Rod, the big uglies and the physicality, but they had, A.D. Mitchell and, James Cook and Brock Bowers. And they had difference makers that would put the ball in the end zone. Right now, we don't see it. And then defensively, they do lose, Michael Williams, and they lose Jalen Walker, and they lose Malachi Starks and Smile Mondon to the NFL. They'll replace them, but that's a lot of dudes that are off to the National Football League on the defensive side. Tend to agree with that. So those are the tiers. Interesting. Texas, in there as a national title contender. They're going to play, I think, 108 days is the countdown to the Ohio State game, which has been announced as a Fox game. I would say for folks who are bumming about the 11 o'clock or noon kick in the Central Time Zone, I would say based on what that being official, because they had the right to pick the first game Fox next year. I don't want to look all the way to 2026 already, but Ohio State comes to Austin September the 12th of 2026. So go ahead and book that as an ABC, because they'll have the first pick next year, and they'll go ahead and take that ABC 7 o'clock in Austin, the rematch. So probably maybe good, Jeff and Rod, that for going to Columbus to get a noon game, not one of those night games, because I was at that game, 20 years ago. That was insane. They don't play. They had to bring in portable lights. They don't have light stanchions, or didn't at the time in Columbus. That was one of the very few night games they played, and Columbus was not equipped to handle that. The drunks there were not able to handle the nighttime. They still treated it like it was a noon game.
If you ever want to know what Texas OU would be like, what the environment would be like if it was played at night, ask anybody who was in Columbus 20 years ago.
That's right. You're exactly right. You're trying to come out of the Cotton Bowl at 10 o'clock at night. Not going to work.
I'm good with 2:30 is plenty late in the day for Texas OU.
Yeah, well, that'll be fun. Texas, Ohio State. And we'll preview that a lot moving forward. Let me tell you about our friends at Allstate. My buddy Mark Saunders and his team, every Tuesday night, they bring it to you. Have you gotten a new quote and find out if they can save you some money? That's always important. See where you're at, because insurance rates have risen like a lot of things have. Simple phone call over to our guy, Mark Saunders, just to get a quick quote. Also to make sure everything is covered. With 35 years of experience, you will be with Mark. He's a Texas alum. He'll love talking Texas football with you, Texas baseball as well. So if you're not sure, could you get a better quote? Could you save a little bit of money, but still have everything covered? That's where Mark Saunders comes in and his team. Just let him run some numbers for you. He's the only insurance agent you'll need. Everything from your home, car, boat, motorcycles, RVs, ATVs, second homes, all those things. They got you covered, especially if you're looking for someone local to Austin, Round Rock, Williamson County, and Travis. Give Mark a call tomorrow, 218-8571. That number, that's a 512. It's 218-8571. Ask yourself again, are you in good hands with more than 35 years of experience? You absolutely will be with Texas alum Mark Saunders, 218-8571, and hook 'em. All right, guys, of that tier system, any big disagreements? Anything that you would change if you were ranking the Jeff Howard, Rod Babers tiers? We had Texas, Georgia, and Alabama at the top. We had then the 5 maybe surprise contenders. Anything that you would add to that? Maybe a South Carolina, maybe a little higher, or where would we be?
South Carolina's, I feel kind of about them how I do about Florida. If something happens, they would have beaten LSU last year if Lenore Sellers didn't get hurt. So, I mean, as long as Lenore Sellers is on the field, they got a chance. By the way, Florida's schedule, I don't know if y'all seen it. It is freaking brutal. There's a 4-game stretch in 5 weeks from late September or mid-September to mid-October. They are at LSU, at Miami, host Texas, and then go to Texas A&M. It's and plus they got the Georgia game, they got the cocktail party, even though we're not supposed to call it cocktail party anymore, but whatever. It is a brutal schedule for Florida.
It is. Well, they and Oklahoma had the toughest schedules last year, and as Rod said a minute ago, they're the same. Two
things for me though, real quick on the tiers. I don't want to say best, but I think looking at it, I think I can objectively say Texas has the roster in the SEC that I've got the fewest question marks about. I don't know if that's just the fact that I'm that close to understanding the Texas roster. It just seems like Texas has fewer question marks than some other people. And if there's one of those teams like from the middle down that I think could surprise some people, man, I can't put a lot of stock into Jackson Arnold after what I saw last year, but Auburn is really freaking talented. I mean, in terms of just pure talent, Auburn might have a roster that's in the top quarter in this conference. Now, can Jackson Arnold and Hugh Freeze, can they put it together? I don't know, but if they don't, it won't be because they lack personnel.
Yeah, they got one of the best and underrated receiver cores, right, in the country, in the SEC. They're going to be able to run the football. Gus Malzahn's offense is dynamic, and they were their own worst enemy last year with the turnovers. I mean, they gave the Oklahoma game away, if you remember that one, when they played at Auburn. That'll be a lot of interesting SEC games this year. But Jackson Arnold back in Norman as the quarterback of Auburn this year against John Mateer, that'll be a fun game. I think that's early September or mid-September. Yeah, when Auburn makes the trip in ahead of the Texas game at the Cotton Bowl, obviously. All right, switching some gears, guys. NFL rookie mini camps have been going on through the past weekend, and I saw Vernon Broughton signed his contract today. He and Kelvin Banks are both in New Orleans now. Bo Davis and Terry Joseph on that coaching staff in New Orleans. I'm assuming they had some maybe influence with the general manager, get some intel on these guys. Let's hear a little bit from Kelvin Banks. Our friends over at KView24, local TV, had some of this sound that I pulled from Twitter. Here's Kelvin Banks. This is interesting. In his rookie minicamp, they were kind of moving him all over the place, and they're trying to figure out where the 9th overall pick is going to play. Here's Kelvin.
You were doing some different positions today, left tackle, guard, right tackle. What have they told you about the position?
I haven't said anything, but like I've always said my whole life, wherever I play, that's when I play it. I just want to be able to help the team.
I think you were asked after the draft. Have you played guard before?
No, never. But like I said, I don't really care where I play it. I'm going to go learn it and go play football.
What are some of the differences just in your kind of short experience making that switch?
I'll just say the biggest thing is just the distance of contact, like where the contact point starts. Obviously, at guard, you're probably going to have contact point a little quicker than a tackle. But other than that, I feel like it's football at the end of the day. If you love football, it shouldn't matter what position you're playing. It shouldn't matter if you're out there only on special teams. It shouldn't matter if you're just a guard on field goal just blocking. If you want to be out there in the field, you love football, then it doesn't matter what spot they keep you at.
All right, there you go, Kelvin Banks. Rod, take us behind the scenes. When you're a rookie and you go to these mini camps, for folks who don't know, in the NFL, they bring in all the rookies, no veterans there, kind of get them their feet wet, get them immersed in how the thing operates. And then later with the mini camps, they'll bring everybody together. What are those like when you show up for your first professional NFL reps?
Actually, the rookie mini camps are kind of what Sark describes for his spring. When we talked about how clinical it is, a lot of teaching. So it's a lot of teaching in terms of the rookie mini camp. They want you to hit, when they start practicing, they want you to hit the ground running, right? They don't want you to have to learn, the drills and learn exactly how the tempo of practice or learn exactly what's expected of you by the coaches. They want to get all that out of the way in the rookie mini camp. So it's a lot, actually, from what I remember, it was much more relaxed, right? It was more about teaching, and it was kind of a clinical approach to it with all the players to make sure your technique and the foundation was right. And they want to, a lot of times, you're coaching out some bad habits that guys played with in college as well early on, and you'll get deeper into that. But less and less, unfortunately, the NFL, they have less time to focus on development. Right. It's a league that they expect you to produce. So you do get those sessions where you get one-on-one time with the coach. It can be really valuable because once the competition starts, they got to cut down rosters and all that kind of stuff. And then, they're into, periods and team drills and all. You don't really get that unless maybe you're a first, second round pick, you would. But if you're a later round pick, you may not get that one-on-one time during practice with your coaches. Right, that kind of stuff. So right. I think it's really important during those rookie mini camps that you get that one-on-one time with your coach. He's going to really give you an evaluation. He's going to give you his kind of honest opinion on what you need to improve on and give you the cliff notes, if you will, to how they practice and what's expected of you and all that kind of stuff. So it was really, to me, it was like one of the more important and pivotal moments for the young rookies coming in, because once everybody comes in and all the veterans are there too, man, it's 100 miles a minute. Like you're drinking through a fire hose at that point.
You better.
By the way, Rod, three future Pro Bowlers, Rod, in rookie minicamp with you with the Giants: OCU Manura, David Hill, and David Tyree. All you with that rookie.
David Tyree with the catch, man. I hung out with David Tyree a lot, actually. We kicked it a lot. He was, I believe, from Montclair, if I'm not mistaken. So we kicked it in Jersey.
Nice.
With David Tyree, man. He's a really, really good dude. But yeah, no, it's what I think is interesting. We're just talking about there with Kelvin Banks, and somebody mentioned that Broughton reunited with Bo Davis there. I mean, CB mentioned that. But one thing I found out I just find so interesting about these draft picks, and we're so close to Texas, and I think it comes up a lot, is that in a world of a lot of information, right? And these NFL teams, they're spending millions of dollars investing in these players, so they're doing a lot of research on these guys. There's still a ton of, I think, reliance on, firsthand accounts and firsthand witnesses to these players, right? Somebody who can actually tell you from a firsthand perspective the work ethic and the football character of a player. Bo Davis, obviously, and Terry Joseph are a great example of that with New Orleans, right? You draft two Longhorn players. And then we hear about Jahdae Barron because of Vance Joseph, his cousin of Terry Joseph. And so that's another connection that you hear about. And I read about another one yesterday, Alfred Collins, and I didn't even really notice, the 49ers defensive line coach. His name is Chris Kokorek, and I'm sure I screwed up his name. I apologize about that. But apparently he grew up less than an hour away from Alfred Collins' hometown there in Bastrop. He apparently knows a lot of people that knew the family and knew of him because he grew up in Texas. So I just think it's to me, it's very interesting. Like you start looking at it, and I remember the Green Bay Packers said one of the reasons they drafted Barron Sorrells because they got a lot of recommendations from players, and they would ask players, hey, who's a great teammate when you talk to a Texas player and they brought him in, and Barron Sorrell's name kept coming up. And you'd be surprised how this is still, even though the NFL and college football multi-billion-dollar businesses, how a lot of it comes down to these scouts and these executives relying on a firsthand account of a player, somebody they can trust that saw it and that experienced it, rather than we did all this research and these data points and we got all these background checks and this. It's still, hey, I know a guy. I know a guy business, which I think.
Well, and a guy like Bo Davis around Vernon Broughton every day, right? I mean, every single day, knows the good, the bad, and the ugly. So he can be real honest about that. And I think that's Chris Kasurk. I think he went from LaGrange, not far from Bastrop.
Caldwell.
Yeah.
Caldwell. There you go.
Okay.
Caldwell.
Yeah.
Good stuff right there.
Yeah.
But the other thing too, Rod, real quick, especially when we talk about investing in first round picks, think about the other connections too, like with the Saints. If you're going to invest the number 9 pick in the left tackle, I mean, one of Steve Sarkisian's best friends is Doug Nussmeier. So I'm sure Nuss probably called Sark and was like, hey, tell me everything I need to know about Kelvin Banks and don't BS me.
Yeah.
I'm sure Sean Payton picked up the phone because Sam Ehlinger and Jahdae Barron, one's from Westlake, one's from Pflugerville. They've met before. They shared a locker room in 2020. It's like, Sam, what do you know about Jahdae Barron?
Yeah. 100. Well, speaking of that, let's hear because and by the way, Nussmeier's got another son that's not Garrett, right? He's a high school prospect. Is that true? Isn't there a kid coming that's another Nussmeier?
I think so.
I think there's another one coming. So keep an eye on that. I think he's a sophomore right now, going through the Metroplex. Same high school Garrett went to. I think. Keep an eye. But here's Jahdae Barron. He was at his mini camp in Denver. You guys just talked about him. Talking about they were asking about playing opposite Patrick Surtain. If you talked to him, he said, "Yeah, but I've really just been talking to my Longhorn guys because there's a bunch of Longhorns in that Denver locker room, including Sam Ehlinger."
I mean, I've asked them along the road. Right now I'm just taking all the information in from the coaches and then kind of go from there. But I got a lot of Longhorn brothers here, so it feels like home.
Well, I guess how excited are you? You told us you used to go watch Sam Ehlinger in high school.
Yeah.
To be in the locker room with him, are you able to now just be his peer? Or are you still always going to be a fan?
I mean, I'm a peer and a fan. I was in the locker room with him my freshman year, so it was good. He was a good mentor for me, good leader, a good big brother to me, just to coach me how I go about business and take care of things and handle things. So that was very well for him. So I appreciate him.
How about that, guys? You got Sam Ehlinger, Brandon Jones, PJ Locke, and Caden Stearns there in Denver. So a bunch of Longhorns in that Denver locker room.
Love it, man.
Cool, Rod. When you got to the Giants, were there any former Longhorns there or just you?
I was there, but it was just me. But when I got to Detroit, man, it was a ton. Corey Redding was there. Big Sean Rogers was there. They drafted Roy Williams.
Yes.
Later on, so I ended up. But that was like a family reunion. I had a ton of fun, probably too much, hanging out with Detroit. We didn't win enough games, but yeah, we had a lot of Longhorns there. And you'll see. I think it is a compliment now to what Texas is doing that you're starting to see. Not only teams draft multiple Longhorns, but and teams start to kind of stockpile Longhorns from the same regime and same era. But you're starting to see teams who normally wouldn't even take Longhorns to draft them. They've kind of stayed away from Longhorns for the most part. Now start drafting Longhorns again, right? Cowboys are kind of like that. The Green Bay Packers are kind of like that too. So I think that also is. And I'll say this about Sean Payton. Sean Payton loves guys, in offense or defense, guys with multiplicity in their skill set. I mean, think about Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill. I mean, this is a guy that uses more personnel groupings than any other coach in the NFL. He once was described as a guy that I believe is Dirk Cutter, the former Bucks coach. He said he studied Sean Payton one day, and Sean Payton had 28 personnel groupings in his breakdown. I can't even name 28 personnel groupings, guys. I don't even know if they exist. Like, that's how multiple he is, though. And think about the defenders that they have right now with Denver, right? You got PJ Locke played multiple positions in the secondary, played nickel, played all the safety positions. You have Jahdae Barron, the most versatile defensive back in the draft. You have you start thinking about he drafted Kenny Vaccaro too when he was with the Saints because he likes versatile DBs, right? The versatility. What's Kenny Vaccaro?
Kane Stearns there.
Yeah, exactly. Kane Stearns was a versatile. He likes versatility. Sark also has talked about valuing versatility as well. So I think that's one of the things that really stood out to him about Jahdae Barron.
Yeah, 100%.
Payton also signed Malcolm Roach as an undrafted free agent in New Orleans, and Malcolm Roach played a lot of positions at Texas. As long as one of them wasn't middle linebacker, he was pretty good. Brandon Jones there plays a lot of different spots. Brandon Jones does too.
Yeah, he does. All right, one more, and then we'll get some super chats in here, or questions in. Rod, I told you have an Andy Ludicky, but let's hear from Quinn Ewers. He is third quarterback in Miami, excited to start his NFL career. He's always dreamed to be an NFL player behind Tua and Zach Wilson in Miami as a 7th-round pick. Here's Quinn at his rookie mini camp.
Last couple of weeks been like since you got drafted and now starting out mini camp.
Yeah, it's been good. Just like you said, getting ready for mini camp, and obviously I'm continuing on the journey of my career, and it's been exciting. It's been a dream come true for me. Since I was a little kid, since I picked up a football, I always wanted to play in the NFL. And, it's not a better place to begin the journey.
An offense that's had a lot of success over the last few years, being able to learn and cultivate your skills with this group. What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, they've been there, they've done that, they've succeeded at the highest level in our game, in our profession. So it's exciting. There's really no other words to describe it. It's just exciting, and to learn from all these veterans.
All right, there you go. Quinn Ewers right there. Beginning the journey. They went on with some questions, but good to see Quinn. He's in a good spot, guys. That offense, they like hitting guys in motion, Rod, guys that are moving, guys in, the quick throws. It's not like Tua. Tua's a point guard, essentially, is what he does. And we saw their offense when he got hurt last year. It just bogs down. We got to have someone who can execute and the timing of all the things that Mike McDaniel's doing. So Quinn's in a good spot where that offense kind of suits what he wants to do.
Yep. One that nobody uses motion more than Mike McDaniel. Nobody targets motion, as you mentioned, more than Mike McDaniel. Nobody, I mean, he's up there at the top of the league in play action pass rate, RPO rate. Ball comes out quickly to insulate the quarterback in pass protection because Tua gets hurt a lot. So does Quinn Ewers. So the system itself is made to insulate them in pass protection. If you would have asked me before the draft, top 3 spots for Quinn Ewers, Miami would have been one of them.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Sark said that too a couple of occasions now since the draft, and went lower than people wanted and he wanted, but same time, go get it, go work on it like all those guys. One other piece of audio I want to show you guys. You see this, that Gunnar Helm, who was a 3rd-round pick of the Tennessee Titans, he was a part of the Savannah Bananas over the weekend, that traveling Harlem Globetrotters kind of baseball team. Watch this, Gunnar Helm doing his thing, running on the field. I thought this was pretty cool. I guess they introduced him to be a part of the festivities in as representing the Titans.
Nice.
That is so cool. Good for Gunnar Helm, man.
Yeah, the swag. Hey, Gunnar Helm, I'm telling you, he's already I would say he's already a 2nd best pass receiving tight end. Like as soon as he steps onto the field, I think he is. So if they want to run 12 personnel with a passing emphasis, which I think that's where they're going, right? They got the former was OC of the Bengals, who's there now as their head coach. So they want to get away from the Vrabel, ground and pound bully ball. They want to be passing. That's why now they got Cam Ward. He's got a chance to be Cam Ward's kind of safety blanket. That'd be pretty sweet. They would develop together and kind of grow together.
100%. All right, Rod, tell them about Andy Ludicky one more time. We'll get any questions that are out there and wrap this thing up.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much to Andy Ludicky and his team for sponsoring our team here at Owen Texas Football. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like myself that has their hands in different businesses. Well, Andy and his team can help you diversify by finding you different businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. If you've been stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you make or your schedule in general, well, reach out to Andy and his team today, and they will take you through a very detailed process to help you find businesses that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. He understands franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, reach out to Andy today. 404-973-9901. That's 404-973-9901. Or you can reach out at Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. That's Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. And thank you very much to Andy Ludicky and his team for sponsoring our Tuesday live stream and being a part of the Owen Texas football family.
No question. Thank you also to Mark Saunders and Allstate. And thank you to Advanced Pain Care for their help tonight. And guys, counting down the days, 108 days to the Ohio State game. And then, we're a couple of weeks or month and a half, 2 months away from the SEC Media Days. That's about 2 months, mid-July. That'll happen. And a lot's going to happen between now and then. There's going to be House settlements. Now there's a presidential committee. All the things that are going on upstairs in college football are happening, college athletics. So a lot to talk about here on the On Texas Football Channel. The guys will be back with coffee and football tomorrow morning just after 8 o'clock with all the conversation surrounding the Longhorns. And Jeff, am I right about this? Coming out of Memorial Day is when they're back, or is it early June when the Longhorns are back for summer workouts?
Yeah, it'll be because some guys will go back for their high school graduations. So typically it'll be like that first week in June when they'll get started. Yeah. Most of those guys will be here by then. So.
And they plow through, and that will just be a handful of portal players that have come in, and the freshmen that didn't come in early. Also, Texas baseball tomorrow night. Texas softball. Good luck to them. They're the 6th overall seed in the nation as they enter the NCAA softball tournament. They're going to host a 4-team regional over at McCombs Field this weekend. Michigan will be a part of that. Central Florida part of that. So get over there and support that women's softball team as they get going. Track and field as well, still going for the Longhorns. And, of course, baseball at Norman, Oklahoma tomorrow night. Jeff will be
Thursday, Eve.
Thursday. All right, I'm already to Wednesday. I'm already been sleeping. I'm back up and it's Wednesday. Thursday night, it'll be Oklahoma and Texas for 3 games. Longhorns can secure an SEC regular season championship, which will really put an exclamation point on one heck of a first year in the SEC. Thank you, Cisco. Thank you, everybody, tonight. Good conversations. The conversation never stops here on the On Texas Football channel. Thank you to Matthew. Thank you to Jeff and Rod and all of you that take it in each and every Tuesday and all the programming here on Texas Football. Guys, have a great night.
You too, E. Thanks, E. Good job. Welcome.